All right. Welcome back to another episode, ladies and gentlemen. And joining us today, we've got the reigning, defending champion of All Stars, Jonna. How's it going?
Good. I'm so happy that we're finally doing this. Um, it's so funny because I feel like this has been a long time coming. We were supposed to do the interview before, and my life is crazy with my kids, and but I'm happy to finally do it now.
I'm actually glad in a way that the interview is happening now of all times because I feel like for the two of us, we're both in much better spots with our
Yeah, than when
respective
we.
areas. Like you just got done cranking out a third one of these, and then I'm obviously in a much different place than when we first
Yes,
connected.
I've
So
seen you've been getting a lot of cool people on here, so
yeah.
I got to do it now.
How weird was that just now to be introduced as reigning defending champ? Like I'm sure in the year 2022 you wouldn't have expected to be hearing that.
Absolutely not. I thought that my challenge days were like over. Like when I got the call for All Stars 1, like I had have you heard that story? Um
Yeah.
Jasmine, she's from my Cancun season.
Yep.
She was supposed to be on All Stars 1. She got casted and then something happened and so she couldn't go and then I got called like on New Year's Eve and it was like my favorite casting person and she's like, Jonna, can you leave in like 2 weeks? And I'm like, I haven't talked to you in like 7 or 8 years. Matter of fact, I saw when Mark was doing the whole like we want OGs like movement and stuff, and I was like, that's so cool. I can't wait to watch it if it happens. But I like never considered myself a part of the OG cast. But I guess like right when my season of Cancun was airing was like right on the cusp of like old school and new school. So it was like a complete out of the blue thing. And um, yeah, like I can't believe it. I went to All Stars 1, like didn't work out. Didn't I was not ready at all. But it was just like a good time for me to go. I didn't think that I would ever do the challenge again. I thought that was like an old part of my life and that it would never come up again. But I mean, what a year.
Yeah, seriously. Like
3 seasons in a year. I mean, it was crazy.
and that was a pretty quick turnaround for you too with I think you were how many months postpartum? Was it 8? Was it?
Yeah. So when I left for the show, I was 7. So like by the final, I was 8 months. But I just had a baby. I had Cal in June during COVID, during the pandemic, and I like a week before I got the call, I to be a replacement. I I had just tried formula. Like I was breastfeeding. I breastfed my daughter for like 16 months, and so I had just tried formula because of like other reasons. And had I not done that, I would have been like, oh no, I can't go because I'm still breastfeeding. um, but yeah, it was crazy. I didn't expect to go to that season, and then I was gone last year filming the 3 seasons. I totaled it up, and I was gone for 4.5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it was hard, like leaving my baby, and
Mhm.
I was, I guess, more freaked out than he probably was. He's fine, by the way.
Yeah.
He's thriving. He's doing great. Um, but it was hard, you know, leaving. But I can imagine like leaving now. Back then, I was
Imagine
like
parents
really
leaving
stressed
on
about
the
it. But
flagship.
now that he's almost 2, he like knows. Like
Yeah.
I think that there's like a separation anxiety stage where babies just like love their moms. But now I think maybe because I left a few times, he like won't let me out of his sight, which I'm not mad at. So
Yeah, I know with like some of the parents that have done like the flagship show, a huge concern of theirs is, obviously separation anxiety because they go through that kind of self-doubt where they're like, if I leave for this extended period of time, like what if my child like forgets me, you know what I mean? And that's like
yeah,
a very real thought that people don't
yeah.
take into consideration. Did that ever cross your mind?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm like he's not gonna know I'm his mom. So when I came back from season 1, like he was fine, everything was fine, and we had like a long period between season 1 and season 2, and season 2 that I was really worried about that. I was like, more and more stressed. I was like, he's not going to remember who I am. And when I got back, I remember I got back and he was already asleep when I got back. And he woke up in the middle of the night. And I was like, let me go change his diaper, because I'm like, I want to go see my baby, you know. And I remember in the middle of the night just being like, Cal, I was like, hi. I'm like, do you remember me? And he's just like, yeah, hi, mommy. Like, he was just smiling and so happy. So it was cute.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you had to have obviously realized coming off of that first season of All Stars, the show had definitely taken like a substantially bigger direction in the competition aspect, right? Like these were things that you probably had to train for a lot more than I'm sure you went into like one of your original seasons, training for, I would have to assume, right?
What? Like I had
The
to
train,
train more for All Stars?
yeah.
Well, honestly, I should have trained back in the day. That's what everybody else was doing. But when I left season 1, like I was so like grateful. I couldn't believe, like, once again, that I was like in Argentina, which, by the way, is the most beautiful location. I loved Argentina. And I just like couldn't believe I was where I was. And it was a new show, so we didn't know, like, would the fans like it? Like, would it get good ratings? Like, anything. So I decided, like, as soon as I got back, like the second day I got back, I gave myself 1 day rest. The next day I started training, because I was like, if I get this opportunity again, then I want to be ready. Because, I had never made a final before in past seasons, and just being there and knowing like what it took, like physically, mentally, all of that, I kind of like had that knowledge. So I was just like, I want to prepare in case I ever get this opportunity again. And then, like, if not, then, it's cool. This is giving me the motivation to like lose the baby weight and stuff. I needed to anyway. So
Yeah, it seemed like the challenge bug had kind of caught you once that All Stars 1 final got wrapped, because to see yourself do something in a position to where in your mind you don't feel like you were in a position to do but exceeded your own expectations, you're only going to want more if that
yeah.
opportunity were to come again. And it seems
Yeah.
like you made the most of that.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard though. I will say, hard balance, like, as a mom, because I'm just like weighing out, do I go to this? Like, do I take this opportunity? Actually, Brad said it best to me. I told him, I think it was after like season 2 when we met and like all that. I was like, listen, they called me for another season. I'm like, Brad, I need you personally to call me and be like, Johnny, don't go. Because I'm telling you now, I don't want to. And Brad looked at me, he's like, I can't do that. I'm sorry. He's like, I have kids. He's like, kids are resilient. He's like, this opportunity is so great. And he's like, you're a badass. You're a mom. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be that friend that tells you not to go.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll work our way back up to maybe some of the All-Star stuff. But what I like to do when I have my guests on, especially those who kind of came up during that era of which the real world was still a thing, I like to gauge and kind of get their perspectives on their on their kind of come ups. But for those that don't know, the real world was not your first reality show.
Yeah.
You were actually on what was called Endurance, am I correct?
Yes. Have you seen any of it?
A few clips, yeah.
It's like
You were 13, right?
Yes. I was 13, on Endurance, long time ago, 20 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy that I did that show when I was younger, and then, like, now that I'm an adult, I did another reality competition show. It's funny, actually. So there's somebody else who is on Survivor right now who was also on Endurance that, like, people have been tagging me in, and they're like, oh my gosh, Jonathan from Survivor. He's also did Endurance back in the day. And I was like, that's so crazy.
With you or a different season?
No, different season. I was on the first season, and it was like a trial show. Like, they weren't sure if they'd do more or whatever, but ended up being pretty popular. It was on NBC, on Discovery Kids, Saturday mornings. And yeah, I did that show. I was they had kids like ages like 13 to 15, I think. I was the youngest person there. And It's literally like, if you watch it, it's literally like the challenge. You're in teams, you do daily competitions, there's like eliminations and all that. It's literally like the challenge for kids.
I'm curious then, how did you maybe get onto that show? Was it similar in the process of how a real world casting would work, or was this something that it kind of fell in your lap?
No, no. So the way that I found out about it, so when I was like 10 to 14, I was like modeling and acting and like doing just different
Yeah.
stuff. And I had an agent, and they were like, oh, you match the fit for this show that's going to be on NBC. And so I tried out for it. I don't really remember the like tryout process of it.
Yeah.
But that's how I found out about it and did
Wow.
it. Yeah.
That's funny. Did that come up at all in your real world process when they, talk to you?
I'm sure. I mean, they ask you everything. Those interview tapes, like, they know more about my life and about me deep down as a person than I know about myself. So I don't remember.
I want you to kind of set the stage for me now, kind of what you were up to prior to, your real world, because I want to set the stage myself here from what I know. Tempe, Arizona, which seems to
Yes.
kind of be like a pipeline for some cast members. Like, it's a little bit of a niche area. We've seen you, Derek. I know Avery's from that area too, I believe. And someone else who I think you actually worked at the hair salon with was Ryan Leslie from Jemmy's
Oh,
East.
yes. Oh my gosh.
What was he
Crazy.
like?
So him and I went to hair school together.
Yeah.
So I went to Tony and Guy Academy. So when I left high school, I got a full ride scholarship to ASU, based on like academics and all the things that I was in. I got this scholarship. So I went to ASU for a semester, and I was like, I don't like this. I went to like the meetings for like, when uh, you meet up and whatever. And I looked around, and like, everybody who's here has worked their whole lives up to this point to be here. And I'm like, this isn't for me. And so I was like, you know what? I'm at a crossroads. Like, I need to figure out what I want to do. And I decided that hair was my passion. So I went to hair school. And yes, Ryan Leslie also went to hair school with me. Totally forgot about that. Um, and what's crazy is like, they had MySpace back then. So when I was like on my lunch break, I was sitting with my friend Chad, and I was like so close to graduating, and I was sitting there, and like, there's something that came up. It was like the bulletins or whatever. It's like, try out for season 22 of The Real World, at this bar on Mill Avenue. And I knew that bar well, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. And then Chad's like, I want to try out. So he said, we should go together. And I was like, no, I can't miss Saturday because I can't miss any more school. Because I was at my max of like amount of hours you can miss or
Yeah.
whatever. But anyways, I went, we both did, and I ended up making it to the next step. And while I was filling out my packet of like all the 10,000 million questions about your life, I saw Derek there.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was so crazy because we work at the same bar at this point. We work at Cadillac Ranch. And he was a bartender, and I was a server at the time, I think. But I was just like, hey, you want to cover my shift later? Because I'm like, I don't want to work tonight. And he's like, no. He's like, I can't. Or it was like a funny exchange, and I vividly remember it. But as the process went on, like, Derek, he's like, hey, did you get the next call? And I was like, no, I didn't get the next call. Like, must not have made it. But it's funny, because it's like, as it went on, we get to the finals, and Derek and I were like, okay, we're not going to tell them that, we know each other, because like, we want to better our chances. And I remember Jim Johnson came in, and he's like, hey, so I hear you know another one of the cast members. And I was like, what do you mean? I don't know anybody. But I guess Derek, during his final interview, was like, oh yeah, by the way, I know this girl. So, but yeah, it was pretty funny to like get casted with someone that like you actually know, and hang out with.
That
I
must have
think,
felt a little weird.
yeah, because not that it defeats the purpose of like Real World, like, oh, 7 strangers, but I'm so happy and grateful that like we went together, because Derek's like My heart.
Yeah.
Have you interviewed him?
Oh yeah, way back when.
Okay,
You're
cool.
actually the fourth of your female cast that I have yet to interview that's now happening. So
Yeah.
finally got a 4 for 4 and not the one from Wendy's. No, but was it ever explained to you guys, like in that process with you and Derek, like how maybe far into it, if they had known that you guys knew each other, like what maybe would have changed? Because to my knowledge, only one other time have they casted two people that knew each other, but that was for a specific purpose. Like back in the day, they casted two people from the same like army base for Real World Seattle, whereas
Okay.
like you guys, you were two people who knew each other. But do you think like if they knew earlier into the process that you guys knew each other, that would have been a different outcome? Like, was it ever explained?
I don't know, because I was just trying to keep it a secret. I was like, I don't want to like help your chances versus mine, So I don't know if it would have made a difference. But
Yeah,
happy it happened the way that it did.
yeah, no, I think it definitely worked out the way. I was just wondering, like, if if that would
Yeah,
have.
I need that. I need to like ask. Like, I need to hit up some old producers or whatever and be like, at what point did you know?
Yeah,
'Cause
maybe they wanted that. I don't know. Could have been. Did you
something
did you
different.
did you happen to watch Ryan Leslie's season by any chance?
I don't know if I actually watched the whole season, but I do know about his season.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah, the reason why I brought that up is because I had him on last year, and you were a part of his process, believe it or not.
really?
He told the story about how when you first got back from filming, like him and I think his brother saw you and were like, "Oh, I thought you were going to film that show," and then you said, "Oh, I just got back," and then, and that's what kind of inspired Ryan to go and try out.
Yeah. Well, I remember, like I'm pretty sure that when he did his tryouts, they were then at the bar that I worked at. So I was like, oh, they're doing tryouts. Like,
Yeah.
Should go.
So you obviously make your debut on the Real World Cancun, which is definitely a very beloved season. I think you guys, rating wise, actually might have. It was you and Vegas were like pretty close. That's what Derek's.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know anything about the ratings or like, how our season did, but that's pretty cool though.
And you guys didn't you guys season get cut short too, I believe, because of the
Yes.
the hurricane?
No, they were like, we have enough of you.
Why was that?
I don't know, but we were supposed to be there. So we left in January. We were supposed to film for 5 months. I think our return home date was in May, but in April, I mean, that's how I took it. I was like, they have enough for the whole show. There's been enough drama. We don't need to film
Yeah.
anymore. But I didn't know if there was a hurricane coming or not, but
I think there might have been.
probably. I mean, very likely. I mean, we were just in Mexico, and
Yeah.
when we were quarantined, and then they're like, okay, we actually have to stay here longer because Hurricane Grace is coming. I'm like, what? They literally had to, like, on season 2, they had to like take apart the house, take all like the cameras and expensive stuff because our house was literally like on the beach. So we weren't sure what was happening, but they're like, okay, we're going to quarantine for like a few days. And then it turned into 5 days. And then the hurricane was coming, so it turned into 9 days.
Wow.
It's awful. Like mid-game, we're playing a game. We're almost there, all of that. And then they're like, okay, you guys have to be in solitary confinement. For some people, I think that the whole quarantine thing is good because they're like, I need my space and stuff. But for me, I can do it for like a day or two, but I don't like sitting in a room by myself for 10 days.
No, it doesn't seem like the ideal accommodation.
Yeah, no, they're like, you can't leave. I'm like, no, I want to go say hi to friends.
I'm actually really curious if you thought this as well, because when you guys were returning to Cancun and you had obviously you, Derek, Jasmine are all going to be there for, oh, there you are.
Table.
Yeah, I'm actually curious since, you guys were going to Cancun for season 2. And then the amount of Cancun people that were going there, I had to think like at some point that this was going to be a battle of the season.
Battle of the season.
Did you get that impression as well?
I mean, when I knew that Derek and Jasmine were going, and I knew that like Emily was an alternate,
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be a battle of the seasons type thing. I wasn't sure what they were going to do, but and it was just crazy to me that, you know, I forget when it was that we filmed, but I started this whole journey, you know, in 2009, and then it was like a whole full circle experience for me, like to start the process in Cancun and then to like come back and win
Full
in
circle.
Cancun. It was pretty epic for me. It was like it hit closer to home, you know.
Did those memories start to flood back once you got there?
Yeah, I can't even tell you. So when we arrived and we got to the airport and we walked out, I don't know have you been to Cancun? The Cancun
No.
airport? Okay. Well, when you walk out of the Cancun airport, there's like this like weird like little restaurant. When I walked out, I was like, it's like deja vu. Like it's crazy to be here again, filming and doing this whole experience. Like it was wild.
The place that you guys worked at wasn't there anymore, I heard.
Student City?
Student City.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Student City, but I mean, Student City was a pretty popular travel company when we worked there. I'm pretty sure that like they ended up selling it to like a different company, and I don't know if Student City still travels there, but at the time when we were there in 2009, it was like a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of, not only did I think about the Battle of the Seasons thing, there was also part of me that felt like, because I'm sure you're aware that homecomings are like making waves now with revisiting Real World seasons. Part of me thought that if maybe they didn't think that a Real World Cancun homecoming would happen, this was the closest thing that we'll get by having like as many Cancun people on this season,
Right.
plus being
You know
in
what's crazy
Cancun.
is like I was so happy that there were so many Cancun people, and I'm like, this is awesome, and we're in Cancun. But honestly, when we got there, it like kind of put a target on our backs. Like
A little bit.
people use anything, but people start to look at like connections and different things, and they're like, oh, there's 3 Cancun people here. Like we gotta break that up. the only other seasons that had that many people is like me, Derek, and Jasmine, and then it was like Katie, Sophia, and Steve.
Right.
So it was like, it was a good thing, but at the same time, you're like, is this a good thing or is this a bad thing? Yeah.
Yeah, there was like the canned meat thing, I think, was the thing going on, right?
It was a thing, yeah. So I forget who started the group text with, it was like me and Derek and Emily and then
Ryan and Casey.
and Ryan, yeah. And we were all like texting, we're like, we should all work together. And I was like, I think we need like a group name. And we were coming up with like, it was like canned meat or team spam, because it's like Cancun, fresh meat. It was like yeah. It was a joke, but it kind of, I mean, it was a real thing. And, you know, it helped in the end.
Well, what do you pronounce it as? Because at first I was calling it canned meat instead of canned meat.
I would call it canned meat. Yeah.
Canned meat?
Which is where we get the spam, I guess.
Makes sense. What do you feel like the likelihood is as far as Real World Homecoming for Cancun would be?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's the same as how I feel about being an all-star and OG. Like, I feel we're the 22nd season, so I don't know where Homecoming's going, but there's definitely a lot more seasons before us that probably will do Homecoming.
But
as far as actually
yes for you?
filming it goes, I don't know, because we had 8 people in our cast. I know 6 people maybe would go, but there's 2 people that probably wouldn't. So I don't know if that's a very likely possibility.
Yeah.
I would love it. I think that'd be
cool.
You know what? Actually, I went back to Cancun, and so our house was at the Me by Malia Hotel. It was like this whole suite or whatever. I went back there, and I wanted to like see it, but it's a different hotel now. So I don't know if they still have the Suite Me or not, because they were under renovation, I think, and then because of COVID, like it got stopped or whatever. So they weren't like a running hotel when I went there. They may be open now, but it's a completely different hotel.
Yeah. So I know a popular thing to do when people immediately come off their real world seasons. I call it the running of the bulls because everybody is like trying to soak those 15 minutes. They're going on the speaking engagement, the bar tours. I know a lot of people go to LA after. What did you maybe try to pursue, or maybe what opportunities came
Afterwards,
your way
well,
after?
so after my show, we filmed after shows, we filmed the reunion, different things, and that was the first time. Well, no, it's the first time that I've been to Los Angeles. I went to like San Diego and LA like on family vacations growing up, but as an adult going there, I was like, oh, this place is amazing. So I did the same thing I think that a lot of us do, and I was at a crossroads. Like I had graduated from hair school. I just filmed this season. And at that point in my life, I was like, I need something different. So I moved to LA. I wasn't necessarily pursuing acting or anything like that, but I just really liked being there. So I wanted to go.
I think I did see you in like one of the LMFAO music videos. Was that?
Yeah, you did.
That was must have
So
been.
funny. I haven't looked at it recently, but I saw it has like 52 million gazillion views. Like it's
Jesus.
crazy. But that is because so we were working with different artists in Cancun, and LMFAO like came to our house, came partied with us, and it was like we had this like whole like bond. Like they were up and coming, we were up and coming, and they came to Arizona to do like a concert, and it was like at a bar or like a I don't know, it was like at a venue, right? And they pulled me out on stage and sang that song to me, and I was a little drunk, but I danced and it was fun. And then afterwards, they're like, "Hey, do you want to come to LA tomorrow and like film the music video?" And I was like, "Sure." So I was like,
That
"Yeah,
must
that'll
have been
be
cool.
great." And then that's how that happened. But it's funny because they like came to our reunion and then did a performance and everything.
Wow. Yeah, that's so cool. It felt like you guys were definitely like had like a little bit of a Vegas aura to you, even though you were
Mhm.
like a later season, I felt.
Yeah, because it was definitely like, I mean, come on, Cancun is known to be a place for partying. I mean, our job was literally like spring break, grad trips, all of that. Every week, like 3,000 new travelers would come in, and which was kind of crazy because we couldn't like really form bonds with people. Like, so on real world seasons, you see people that like meet people and have coworkers and all that. Like, we didn't really we weren't really able to make connections with anybody except for ourselves because we made connections with people and then they would leave because they were on spring break. So I do think it is definitely a party season, party vibe.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I was 19 when I was casted. 20, I never really like drank and partied and so
Yeah.
just throwing into that atmosphere, like it was a recipe for disaster for me.
Well, was it maybe a culture shock for you coming off the show, like returning to normal life? I'm curious, like where your stance is because a lot of people I speak to, they don't really like watching themselves back or like watching themselves on TV. Did you go
Yeah.
through that, or were you one of those people that likes to watch yourself back?
I don't know if I like watching myself necessarily. What's crazy is when you go and watch it, it's like you feel like it's just a small snippet of what happened, and I just feel like there are so many memories and so many moments that didn't get put into all the episodes. So like the memories that I had from Cancun, um, didn't really all quite get shown, But after I got back, I, was just living life. Like I think after I got back, then, back in the day they used to do like, appearances and bar tours and stuff. And I think that like social media kind of maybe ruined that for us because, people once there's social media, people now have access to you daily. Like they can log in and see you. Back then, people were like, "Oh my gosh, somebody's so and so from the real world's coming to this bar. I'm gonna go." So coming back, it was a crazy time because the same company, Student City, that we worked for, the following year, like hired us to go on spring break again, but to just like party and like host and stuff, and that was a crazy fun time.
And then we all know that you made your debut on Rivals One Challenge speaking.
Yeah.
However, there
However,
is there is this one instance. I don't know if you've talked about this, but I've been so curious about this
what
because
happened?
I want to flash back 2 seasons prior because it was fresh meat too. I've heard and people
Mhm.
know that we've saw that there was supposed to be a final girl, but they lost their passport, but it was never explained to us who that girl was.
It was
But I've
me.
heard that it's you.
It
Is
was
this
me.
true?
You know what's funny is because you know that now that Paramount has like all of the episodes up, one day I was thinking, I was like, did they ever say like, oh, Johnny lost her passport? So like I went back and watched like the very first like 15 minutes of it, but TJ literally says like one of our female competitors couldn't make it into the country, and I was like, oh my gosh, because Canada's like known for like not letting people in because of DUIs and whatever. No, it wasn't a DUI. It wasn't any criminal charges. It was literally I lost my passport.
At the
So
airport?
yes. So what happened? So I was actually in Toronto the like day or two before, and I called the talent coordinator and I was like, hey, because they like book all of our travel and stuff. I was like, hey, can you actually switch my flight from Phoenix to Toronto to wherever we go? And she's like, why are you in Toronto? Or like, why do you think that? I think she thought I was trying to figure out like what country we were going to, but I was literally just there. But so went back to Arizona, and so we flew like Alaskan Airlines or something. And so our flights were set up. So usually what they do is they fly everybody, because we're all from different parts of the US, fly us to one city. And then from that city, they take our phones and all that stuff. And then we then travel together to wherever we're going. So this time, and is my first challenge. I knew nothing about anything, the challenge or anything. Flew from Phoenix to Seattle, and even though it was like my rookie season, technically I was a vet because it was fresh meat.
Yeah.
So the 12 of us all stayed in hotel rooms. We were all like hanging out. I remember that
Who was your
vaguely.
roommate
When?
when you guys were staying in the hotel? Like, do you remember? Like,
Did we have roommates?
oh, I don't know. I just
I know.
assumed.
I think we were by ourselves.
Oh, okay.
I think we were all like, we all just like went and hung out in one room, and we were all hanging out and stuff.
But you were with the veterans. Like, you actually saw.
Yeah, so it was the 12.
Okay.
Yeah, I never saw any of the rookies. But so the next morning they're like, okay, our flight's super early, whatever. 5 a.m. we get to the Seattle airport, and we go through the process of like, they take our stuff, and then we're going to go check in to see where we're going and all that. And I could not find my passport anywhere. I was like, oh my gosh, like, where is it? Like freaking out, panicking. And I didn't know like what to do. So I was like, should I go back to the hotel? Like maybe I left it in my room. Maybe it's in somebody else's room. Like I need to go back. I was on the phone. I called the hotel. Um, the town coordinator at the time, she was like, okay, well, we're going to continue on. Here's the info, whatever, setting it up. So the whole cast left. I went back to the hotel, searched. I got a key to all 12 rooms, even though I wasn't in all 12. I was just like, maybe somebody has my passport, freaking out. And then I messaged her, and I was like, hey, I can't find it. What do I do? And she's like, unfortunately, like we start filming at like 6 p.m. or whatever it was. Like, since you can't find it, like, I'm sorry, we have to replace you. So they then called Evelyn, and Evelyn was like en route to Vancouver. And I remember sitting at the hotel, and I was just like, I literally just quit my job at the bar that Derek and I worked at. All my life was like building up to this moment. I'm like, it's my first season. I was so upset. And then I get a call from Alaskan Airlines, and they're like, hey, Miss Mannion, we have your passport here at the airport. So I guess what happened, so I was wearing this like salmon like hoodie, and so I had my passport just like in my pocket. Note to self, like, keep your passport somewhere safe. I flew from Phoenix to Seattle with Wes, and I remember we were talking about all kinds of stuff. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think that like Wes was probably doing that thing where he like recruits rookies or something. So, but anyways, I remember like my hoodie and it was just down here. So I guess what happened is it fell out of my pocket on the flight, and it's so crazy because there's so many times I think of like, what if I would have gone? What if that wouldn't have happened? And people from Fresh Meat too have told me like, we wish you were there because Evelyn came in and, you know,
She
my
wreaked
game
havoc
got
on that
messed up
house.
or whatever. Yeah. So.
That was like my favorite house, like just structure wise, like how it looked. That was a
Yeah.
beautiful house too. I know you're not like a cold weather person, but that was a beautiful house.
No, I would love to go to Vancouver, but it was a cool house. Like once I actually went back and saw it, and such a cool setup because Fresh Meat 2, you got so many people from the Fresh Meat cast that then became a part of the show that I would have loved to have been there. But, you know, everything happens for a reason. I can't, you know, for a few years following that, I was just like so upset. So I was like, I should have gone on that show. But
Well, then rivals came calling, and
yeah, Rivals
one
came calling.
one of my favorite debuts by like a lady pairing was yours and Jasmine's, because you guys like at that time rookies were just like picked off like it was their job,
Oh
you know?
yeah.
But you guys came in like a bat out of hell. Like the first episode of the first night, I think, was the infamous Jasmine hitting the mirror moment, I believe. But
Yes.
what many people don't remember is what sparked that was, I believe, yours and Camilla's argument, where I think she started calling
Yeah,
you
which if you go
Jasmine.
back and watch the argument, like when I watch it, I'm like, it doesn't even make sense. Like we were so drunk. Like what were we even arguing about?
She called you Jasmine. She kept calling you the wrong name.
Yeah, and it turned into a whole like thing. So stupid. I literally like I've gone back and watched like episodes of Rivals, and I literally had this like, first of all, like a wine glass should have like 5 ounces in it. Like it was like full to the top, and I'm like, I look at myself, I'm like, you're drunk. You should go to bed.
So you probably have no clue what that fight was even about.
Yeah, I think that she called me Jasmine, and then it was probably, I don't know, it's like the challenge. So probably like pent up, build up stuff. Everybody's, you know, fighting. So Kimberly and I were arguing, and then Jasmine came to my defense, and then Teresa started arguing with Jasmine, and I don't
And
even
then
know.
and then they became rivals on the next one.
Yeah.
The domino effect, I swear.
Right.
But yeah, when I was doing like a deep dive of your seasons, of course, I did notice like, you know, you won the very first daily challenge with Jasmine on that season, and you guys went pretty far for a rookie team. And then I was watching Rivals too, and I noticed that although Paula and Emily were like the team to beat, you and Nani were close behind. So that's like when people are seeing your all-star performances, and maybe the people that are getting caught by surprise by like your performance of like, wow, Johnny is like a beast. Like I went back and I checked, and I was like, maybe like she actually was never like a bad competitor to begin with.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
think it's maybe because you weren't like maybe outspoken back then, and that's why people like
Yeah,
would?
I hadn't come into myself then. And I was just, like I said, I was always so constantly worried about hurting people's feelings and all, you know, all the different moves. I was like there and I was in game mode, and my friendships and my relationships, I held to a higher standard than advancing in the game. Like I wasn't actually playing the game then. So, I mean, I feel like I've always had it in me, but I just, you know, it was never the right time.
Is like maybe you coming on rivals coming on All Stars, is it maybe kind of about like reshaping your challenge story in a way? Because I feel like
Absolutely.
your first time around, you were always like people would associate you with something, whether it be your Cancun people or like a relationship or a partner. Like, you know, now
Someone
it's like you're standing, yeah, like you're standing on your own 2 feet in a way. Did that play any
yeah.
factor in your returns?
Oh yeah. So it's kind of crazy because, you know, my last season that I did before doing All Stars was Battle of the Exes. And after that season, I was just like, I'm done with this chapter. Like, you know, um, and I, I was just, I was in a weird place back then. And so I kind of felt like the challenge was like this book, and that was the end of it. And when I got the call for All Stars, it was like an opportunity that was given to me to like rewrite the last chapter or write a sequel to this thing that was like a huge part of my life, you know? So it's really cool. I don't know very many people that get the chances that I've gotten and like the opportunity to come back and feel like you're your whole self and a whole person and compete. So.
Was it an organic process for you, like stepping away after Battle of the Exes too, or was it a conscious effort by you?
What'd you say?
Was it like an organic process with stepping away after Exes too, or was it like a conscious effort made on your end to step away?
Well, I was a mess after, not just because of After Exes 2, I think just in life in general. Like I was just, ugh. I look back and I'm like, ugh. But it was a little bit of both. I mean, I got called for Bloodlines, and I remember specifically during the casting process, they're like, you need, it has to be like a sibling or it has to be like a first cousin, like by blood. And I was adopted, so I wasn't really in contact with people who were, you know, related to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember I tried, I was like, oh, can my best friend be my sister? And they're like, no. So after that, I was just like, you know, maybe this is like a sign I need to be done. I need to like move on. And because, you know, I don't know at what point you like decide when it's time to hang the hat, but I knew what I wanted for my life. And I wanted to find someone and get a family and get married and have kids and stuff. So I just like looked at my life at that moment and I was just like, this is a sign. Like if I'm not going to be on this next show, like I should be done for a while.
Well, it all came back and worked around. It does seem
crazy.
One of my favorite moments of yours, actually, and a lot of people would probably agree with me on this, was your elimination that you and Jasmine won against Sarah and Caitlin.
Yeah.
Well, mostly just because
I just saw it. So like MTV, they made like a highlight.
Yeah, you got your own highlight tape.
Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I just rewatched it because of that. But that is one of my favorite moments.
It was like, and I always pinpoint this when it's like the foreshadow moments are my favorite one, because earlier in that episode, if you remember, like specifically Sarah and Caitlin wanted you to, like, and Sarah and you had that little scene where she's like, I think, you know, we could beat you.
Oh yeah.
Like you're like, in like, what? And she's like, things, basically everything. Implying like everything.
And anything. Yeah.
And to top it all off, it was a puzzle of all things.
Mm-hmm.
That you guys beat. It's something that they like were expertises in, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like when you do the show, you know that Sarah, she's so smart and puzzles are her thing. And it was funny because I was like, I think that I'm underestimated. Like you don't know me or anything about me. But the overconfidence of being like, yeah, I can beat you, you know. I mean, it was her downfall. I think that was the first moment that, you know, that showed that I'm really capable. Like, you know, as far as, you know, if you stack up all the challenge competitors, I'm not like the biggest. At that time, I wasn't the strongest. But mentally, like, if you throw me a puzzle, if you throw me anything, like, if I'm focused, I can do it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Really smart.
What would you say, like, the experience contrasts are like back then as opposed to now? Like, obviously, it's a condensed season with, like, all-stars. You're only there for a shorter time, and you're obviously all, like, adults and parents and now. Whereas, like, back when you were on your original stint, I would probably say it was about, if you could correct me if I'm wrong in your opinion, but I would say it was about 60% party and 40% competition.
Yeah. I mean, back then for me, yeah. It was probably 75-25. It was all about the experience because it was like, how cool is it to like go there and be in a foreign country and party with everybody? And I wasn't winning and getting to the end was never like on my mind. I wanted to compete. I wanted to show up. I wanted to like do what's right. If somebody came in like Laurel on Fresh Meat, when she was like, we're all voting for Anissa, and I'm like, I don't want to vote for Anissa. That's not right, you know? Which, you know, ended up getting me sent in. Back then, like, my priorities, like, in the whole game, it wasn't the same. Now, when I came into All-Stars, I was like, okay, I'm taking time away from my family. I am here for a reason, and this is my time. This is my moment to get it done.
So you would say the competition aspect in kind of how the show is now is more catered towards you, I guess you would say?
Kind of. So, I mean, I will say, like, it just depends, but because it's different from season 1 and 2 was like a different executive producer than season 3. But as far as the competition goes, I think maybe they had like a few injuries from season 1, and so they're like, these people they're a little bit on the older side. Like, we need to tone it down a little bit. But the eliminations, aren't as like contact, like head on. They'll do like some sort of physical aspect, but then also throw in a puzzle too.
Yeah.
So for me, that's great.
Oh yeah.
So I love the equalizer. I mean, most people are like, no, but so I feel like when I was there before, like every challenge was super physical, and it was like this crazy thing. On All Stars, the first episode's always like something crazy cool, and then the last episode, like they always have like a few of the big ones. But I don't know. I wouldn't say that it's easier. Maybe the actual like the challenges and the eliminations aren't quite the same. But I will tell you though, the final. I mean, I can't say for sure because like the finals before, I never was in on the flagship shows, so I don't know how hard they were. But I will tell you, it's the hardest thing I have ever done. So I think that the finals are comparable from flagship to All Stars.
What was harder, 2 or 1 final wise?
The great debate. I with myself. So All Stars 1, I was just like not as in a good shape, but also like the altitude and it was freezing cold. It was like they had to like when we did the overnight thing, they had to every like hour let us stop what we were doing and then go to the fire to have fire breaks so that like we wouldn't get hypothermia. Like it was so cold and it was crazy. I don't know. I'm gonna have to say season 2. The final was harder. Just because like you throw in, it's still like a 2-day thing, but you throw in the heat, you throw in the humidity and the competition level, all of it. I feel like overall, season 2's final was the hardest one that I've done.
Yeah, from experience, competing in the cold is a lot more up in my wheelhouse than competing in the hot weather. So
for people like you. Yeah, see, so for people like me, they're all dying and sweating and stuff. I'm like, I'm from the desert. I don't need water.
Well, let me ask you now, though. Say if, like, the flagship series was, like, condensed, would you ever consider it?
That's a great question. Yeah, if it weren't for the timing thing and, picking up and leaving my life for, 12 weeks? Yeah, if it were, I mean, maybe. I mean, I'm happy. I would love to, like, do the shows with people that I've done it before. Like, I would love to do another show with Nani. She's my fave.
Yeah.
And I would love to, like, if you look at the challenge now, it's like cinematic. It's like you're filming an action movie. Like everything's blowing up, like all this crazy stuff. So like, yeah, I mean, it'd be cool, but I don't know.
You and Nani had such a yin and yang type dynamic on Rivals too, where like the challenges. Oh my God, I just remember the shock. Do you remember the dog collar one where they shocked you on Rivals too?
Yes.
It was like you guys were yelling in unison. Like you would get shocked and then she would get shocked.
Crying. I didn't even understand what we were supposed to do. Like I was like, why are we getting shocked? The whole point is you're supposed to get shocked and then find the opening. I did not understand what was going on. All I know is like I don't like being blindfolded. I don't like the getting shocked. It was not good.
Well, was it worse than like the rope thing that you had to shimmy across on All Stars 1?
Ooh. Which was worse? I don't know. We didn't make it past the first rope when we did the shock collar thing. I will tell you, like, the injury that I got from that rope thing, like, I was sitting on the rope, like, rubbing my skin raw. Like, I wish I could show you pictures of afterwards. Like, I couldn't even, like, Kendall was there, like, wrapping my legs because she told me I had a weeping wound. Like, it just kept, like, leaking. Like, it was so gross. My whole back of my leg, there's still scars, but was an open wound, and she had to, like, wrap it up for me. I don't know. I don't know which one was harder, but I definitely still have the scars from the ropes challenge from All Stars 1.
Wow.
Yeah, I couldn't even sit down.
Yeah, people don't realize these things are hard.
Yeah.
If you think it's hard watching them, it's even harder doing them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time today. I had a fun time chatting with you and having you on. I'm glad we were finally able to make this thing happen. And for those who've checked this out, you can check Jonna again out on May 11th on Paramount Plus, where she's going to be defending her crown. So thanks again, Jonna.
You guys get ready. Season 3's a good one.
Yeah, stacked lineup for sure.
For sure.
All right, thank you, and have a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day too. Tomorrow's.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Nice talking to you.
You too.